Hello, my name is Terry Dunken. I'm CEO and founder of the Mass Tort Institute. Thanks for taking some of your time today to listen in and allow me to share some of my thoughts for you. Again, thanks for taking your time because I'm going to be talking to you about how to practice time management as a mass tort attorney. As we know, time is the most precious thing we have in our lives, and once you waste some time, you can't ever get it back. And you know, as a practicing attorney, that there aren't enough hours in the day, and you've got to be really judicious and strategic in how you do go spend your time. And I'm going to share with you a couple of tips that I think hopefully will be helpful to you, and I hope to make you a better practicing attorney once we finish this next 5 or 10 minutes together. The first thing I would have you do is focus on the attorney relationships that you have and really think about what the skill sets are that you bring to the table, where those apply to the gestation and completion of a mass tort life cycle, and to the extent you don't have skill sets. So if you're an aggregating law firm and you can work up the best cases on the planet, that's great. That's what you should be doing. But if you're not the great litigator to go beat up Johnson & Johnson or Pfizer or Merck or whomever, then you really have got to go find and assess the best litigators who also have the ability to settle the dockets, and you need to cultivate those relationships. And don't just shake hands and say, hey, great, I'm going to send you my cases. You want to set clear expectations of what are the criteria for a given docket, what happens, what kind of reporting do I get from you when I send my cases to you, and how often do I know where the negotiations are. You really need to establish those criteria in those relationships. That will save you tons and tons of time and money if you do that properly. The next thing I want to focus on is internal, and that's your whole paralegal and paraprofessional team. And as we know, if you're running a large docket, if you're running anything over 1,000 clients, assuming you're not just providing leads to a firm, if you really are interfacing with clients, you know it takes a really great support team to do that. Because in my own firm right now, we represent over 7,000 clients, and it would be a physical impossibility for me to talk to each and every one of those clients. I mean, it's not humanly possible. So I know I've got to have a really strong, competent team who can have the conversations that I'm not able to have with the clients. And not only is it having the conversations to relate where we are in the tort, but it's to go gather that critical information so that we really can complete their files, get the proper medical records, make sure we can prove they have a compensable case, and most importantly, set the expectations so they know what the duration of this mass tort cycle is going to look like. It's all about setting expectations and then performing and delivering on that. The next point I want to bring up is technology in your firm. We all use technology. It's the best thing that's ever happened for mankind. It also can be the worst evil. And one of the things I recommend you do is focus on what your unique ability is and figure out how technology can help you in that unique ability. But then all the other technology pieces, you need to have somebody else do that. If that's not your skill set, you shouldn't be spending your time downloading a bunch of emails, downloading PDFs, building spreadsheets. That's for staff members or contractors to do for you. So that leads me to the fact that vendor selection is really, really important. You're going to want to really establish core relationships with vendors. When I talk about mass torts, I use the analogy of making a movie. We all go watch movies. We somewhat know what it takes to make a movie, sometimes tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. And if you use that analogy for mass torts, we as a collective community will spend tens and sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars on a given mass tort. And so the strong analogy is the fact that it takes a bunch of independent contractors as a village to go successfully make a good movie, or from our perspective, to make a great mass tort. And so there's very few firms, almost nobody, who could take a large mass tort and handle the entire tort all the way through as a solo firm. So we collaborate, we communicate with one another, and you really want to make sure that you've set up those lines of communications, that you have expectations with your co-counsel partners, and so that it's a seamless, great experience, so that you then can have your team communicate with your clients how effectively you and your team are prosecuting their cases. The last thing I want to share with you today on time management centers around vendor selection. Vendor selection is probably the most important thing you can do as a mass tort attorney. Your vendors will make or break your practice. That starts with what torts you're going to participate in, what type of ad buys you're going to do to aggregate your clients. Are you going to do television? Are you going to do digital? Are you going to do newspaper? Combinations thereof. Those vendors are, as you know, hugely critical to the success of your campaign. Who's going to do your intake? Do you have your own call center? Are you going to outsource that? I would submit to you that your intake questionnaire and the team handling those questions is the most important inflection point into whether or not you're going to have a successful docket in that mass tort. And so too many of us don't spend enough time paying attention to the intake. You should listen. You should have them send you some of the voice mail so that you can actually listen in to the way they're representing you for your future clients. Sometimes it will shock you, and not in a good way, potentially. So vendor selection is hugely critical. And not only do you want personally to know who the owner of the company is, but you should know who the operations manager and who team members are that are working on your clientele. Let me tell you, there's nothing better for a call center person know that you know them by name, so that they know how much you really care about the way they're interfacing with your clients. I mean, that can be a game changer for your relationship as you go through your client relationship into the future. And lastly, I just want to share with you a wisdom I learned from a man by the name of Dan Sullivan, who is the strategic coach. I was in Dan's coaching program for years, and Dan teaches something called the entrepreneurial time system. And the definition of the entrepreneurial time system is that there are 3 days in your lives. There's the free day, there's the buffer day, and there's a focus day. The free days are those days where you don't do anything related to business, not a phone call, not an email. These are truly your rejuvenation days. And many of us as mass tort attorneys are so busy doing poor time management that we have 0 free days. One of the things I would highly commend to you is that you establish a structure and a system in your life so that you really can take free days, so you can rejuvenate, so that when you're going to get back to work, you can do it better than ever. The second day is a buffer day. And the buffer days are those days where you do the things you need to do to prepare for what you're going to do on your focus days. And the focus days are the most important days. Those are the days where you want to spend at least 80% of your time doing those activities that lead to how you're going to get the biggest payday that you can get, to put it succinctly. And what I mean by that is any activities that directly impact whether or not you're going to successfully prosecute your docket, that's what you want to be doing on focus days. To circle back to what I first said, a lot of your focus days, since it takes a village to successfully prosecute your mass tort cases, a lot of your focus days are going to be communicating with key team players, key external relationships. So you're establishing those communications, accountabilities, so that you and your team are going to be able to do the best for your clients that you can do. Thanks for taking a little time with me. I hope this was valuable to you, and look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thanks.